Welcome to Neurotic Podcast, the Internet Computer Podcast with Jesse and Kyle. This is episode 8. Kyle, I am fired up for today's show. How are you doing?
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be our spiciest show yet. I hope we can conclude the show still being friends, maybe.
I mean, I'm not expecting us to have, a major falling out, but maybe we should be running this whole podcast more sort of Game of Thrones style, more palace intrigue. You never know whichever host is your favorite, they're not safe not to get killed off on the plot line. You never know what's going to happen. And then everyone's really, really disappointed with the end and we never talk about it again. So that's what you're suggesting is going to happen?
I was worried after I said that. I was like, oh gosh, Jesse might say, Kyle, we weren't friends going into this podcast, so why would we be friends at the end? So I'm glad you didn't go there. Thanks.
I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to make NFTs. I came here to win.
Well, let's talk NFTs then.
Yeah, speaking of not coming to make friends, that's a perfect segue right there to talk about a little airdrop farming.
Yeah. Do you want me to jump in on that?
Yeah, you put in our show notes. We've got this report from Saorsa Labs.
Saursa Labs?
Saorsa
Yeah.
Labs. Let's go with that. Tell me about Saorsa Labs and their airdrop farming update.
Yeah, so they made a great Medium article. Essentially, what they've done is looked through a lot of data from Discover regarding some of the airdrops that have happened there, and specifically looking to see were there cases where where multiple airdrops ended up getting transferred into the same wallet down the road, right? As a way of identifying, okay, these are people who are airdrop farming. They're creating multiple accounts, and what they found was obviously some cases of that. They highlighted 3 different farmers, which I thought was kind of fun. They threw all their data, not all their data, but they backed up their statements with data in their Medium article, which was great. But it does look like, and this should surprise nobody, but that there is bots um, within Discover. And I'm using the word bot. It actually doesn't necessarily have to be automated. I'm using it in the term of like somebody posting stuff for no reason other than to get an airdrop kind of thing.
Sock puppet accounts. So fake people. So airdrop farming. Why don't we define airdrop farming? I think that might be a little helpful
That's a
for
good point.
setting
Yeah.
setting a little context here.
All right. So if you think that there's going to be some airdrops coming in the future, so let's say like the district pods, right? And you're like, well, how should I gamify this, right? What metrics might they use to determine who gets a pod and who doesn't? And then you say, well, it's probably going to be postings, right? Number of times I post or comments I leave or likes I do. So instead of just having one account where I do a lot of activity, I'm instead going to have 10 or 15 or 20 accounts where I do a little bit of activity and just basically try to get quantity over that line. We know that District is looking for that, right? That they were trying to manually verify some of their airdrops. But even yet, still, it looks like with some of these Discover airdrops that there are people out there who are farming. They're doing this farming. They have multiple accounts, and what they'll do is they'll basically log in and kind of lazy, in my opinion, post a few words to comment on an article, and then log into a different account and post a few more words, and then log into a different account, log in, and post a few more words. But they have this great line there that said that they just started kind of randomizing, picking some of these bot activities. And of the last 20, like a random sampling of 20 posts that contained a total of 31 words. So these are all 1 word, 2 word posts. But anyways, it's nice they quantified it. They highlighted 3 farmers who looked like they were basically getting airdropped between like 10 and 15 NFTs per airdrop. And then they also looked at their activity. So do they then just dump them in the marketplace? It seems kind of like some of them do, but a lot of them are hodling their I'll say ill-gotten gains. But one of the nice things about this article, and this is maybe one of the things that kind of made me really stop and think, was they actually go into some arguments why it's not technically ill-gotten, which I thought was interesting.
I mean, I think this dovetails really nicely with a lot of conversations we've been having about Twitter with the Elon Musk takeover too, where Twitter has, a huge bot problem and they are very, very resistant to deal with it for a whole host of reasons. A big one is they're counting those as users and as metrics for success. And
Yeah.
so if you are airdropping and your goal of your airdrop is one pod or one NFT per real person, then these people are trying to game the system and get their ill-gotten gains and load up, but it also, I kind of agree. It's there's something about airdrop farming that feels inherent and natural to the crypto space a little bit. You have the anonymous aspects of crypto
Hmm.
culture, and this feels like a very natural extension of it. And so much of tokenomic models are gamifying the experience for people. This strikes me in a lot of ways as, not that I'm pro bots. I mean, I'm a little bit pro bots, hot. There's my first spicy take. Pro airbot, pro farming. Um, but it's there's maybe a symbiotic relationship in some ways between these faked and manufactured interactions and people and the platforms that are trying to grow.
Yeah, and so it's in the article. Sarorsa Labs says, you could think of these people as entrepreneurial. They figured out a way. They put in the work to take advantage of the within the rules. And that's the other thing they point out is when you look at the Discover rules, airdrop farming is not prohibited. Posting through 10 different accounts is not prohibited. So they're not actually technically breaking rules. However, I think we can all agree that one word comments aren't adding value into the ecosystem, and if anything they might actually be removing value from the ecosystem, because now there's a trust issue where you don't know if you're just talking. I'm sure you've seen it, Jesse. You post something about ICP and all of a sudden these like semi coherent comments come in your basically bashing ICP, but it's not, some of them are just bad and you're like, oh, that's clearly a bot. But then there's some that you're like, I don't know, is this a legit person? I like, if this is a legit person, I'm interested in what they have to say and like their point of view. But if it's just a bot, I don't want to respond and then get into like this tangle of bot responses. And so you get into this like,
Do they have between 18 and 50 followers? If yes,
is that
they're
how?
almost certainly a bot. Yeah, almost
Okay.
on Twitter anyway. If you have between 18, and then you look at their comments, and you're like, oh, you have one thing. You got
What you're
your
only
one.
interested.
You're only interested in your one topic. You are not a person that contains multitudes with different interests. So, all right. Well, Kyle, the reason I put this in here, and please don't be offended by this question, but are you a bot? Are you airdrop farming this podcast? Are you a real person? Please phrase your answer in the form of one word answer followed by a wallet address.
No, 58437EP7.
Totally human. I'm convinced. Moving on.
You know
Yeah.
what's
So,
it's funny, and maybe so I'm propping up my microphone right now because it's too low, and I'm doing it on a board game called Inhuman Conditions, where that's the whole point of the game is to figure out if the person you're talking, it's a 2-player game, and you're trying to figure out if the person you're talking to is human or a robot. It's kind of an
A
interesting
Turing
game.
test.
Yeah, Turing test.
Turing test. Yeah. So a Turing test is a test of, if you're sitting at a computer and typing into it and you're getting responses, can you tell if the other person or not person is human or a computer at the other end? And it is hard. I think is
Yeah.
the answer. I mean, so much of the bot culture is pervasive in Twitter. Obviously politics. We get it certainly in responses when you talk about ICP. The people come out of the woodwork.
Hmm.
Yeah, not the people, the bots come out of the woodwork. These aren't real people. And so their whole goal is to drain you of energy and time and focus. And so that's why you don't feed the trolls and you don't feed the bots either. But
Oh.
you try not to feed you try not to feed the farmers either.
Yeah. So that kind of brings up the last point in the article, which is how would you push back against it? And I'm not sure that they really. I'm kind of scanning through to see if they had like a good, so like a solid solution that we know would work, and I don't think they did, other than maybe manual verification. But it does seem that you know humans are humans, and if you're going to bot a system, you're basically trying to put in the least amount of work to get the most amount of gain. And so that least amount of work usually means that you're not writing Tolstoy-esque responses in your discover comments. So it kind of makes it for the that's one way that you could start to tell is the quality of the posting.
Yeah, and there's a know your customer aspect, baked into that as well. I think to verify that it's a real human is essentially a know your customer piece. And
Hmm.
there's a real cultural pushback against that for good reasons and bad, right, in crypto. But it's an inherent part. So the system was designed this way, and this is a part of it. And so the question becomes, is there a way to optimize around it? And so, for example, as we're collecting, we're whitelisting people for Taco NFTs right now. When we whitelist people, we get a Discord and a wallet address. And so, not that, again, of course, it's possible to generate
Yeah.
multiples of all of those things, but it's a multi-step process. People have to get qualified, and we upgrade them through that process in an attempt. We're not, if some slip through the cracks, it's not an airdrop, it's a whitelist. And so, if
Yeah.
some slip through the cracks, that's okay. I think, tight. What's the value of the effort to track down every single person and be like, are you a real human? Prove to
Right.
me, prove you're human.
Yeah, so I guess what you could, I mean, so could somebody white? Well, you would have to have multiple Discord accounts, right?
Yep.
And I'm assuming, are you going to scan through so that so two different Discord accounts can't have the same wallet address? Or I guess
Yeah,
it
we'll
wouldn't
just
matter
we'll
because
just filter we'll just filter out duplicates. So if
okay.
you're a duplicate either in Discord username or in wallet, we'll strip that out. So you
Hmm.
only end up with one.
So if somebody wanted to, they could create a Discord a name, a new wallet, and then they can get they can get on your whitelist a second time. And then what do they save? Like, what does all that effort get them?
Well, it'll get them the ability to buy more tacos during the whitelist period, I guess would be the answer. And I'm kind of willing to sell them to them. So you want to shift to a little taco talk here?
All right. You got any new details?
I got some new details. So this is
I was trying to squeeze out of you what the whitelist discount's going to be on, because I am on the whitelist and I want to know what's this
I'm
discount going to
gonna
be.
I'm gonna tell you. So here's the deal. We record on Thursday mornings, and then we usually release the episode on Friday. So on Friday, I'm gonna make a final go ahead, no go ahead on our release plan. So if you are listening to this right now, that means we are a go, and I am stoked. And if you are not listening to this, then it doesn't really matter what I say right here because it's all on the cutting room floor. So we are really excited. We are launching Taco NFTs on Cinco de Mayo. It feels thematically appropriate. And we are also going to be, so we are whitelisting right now. Whitelist purchases are going to be restricted to probably 5. We're going to get that nailed down exactly right, but you'll be restricted to 5 purchases per whitelist member. And we're going to do a 20% discount on Mint for whitelist members. And so that is specifically designed to, again, we want a really, really broad base with a lot of wallets with a small number of Taco NFTs in those wallets. So we want all of these real people out there to have them and get them into people's hands and really diversify. We don't want it all consolidated and centralized in just a handful of wallets. And so our mint price, our full price will be 0.5 ICP, and then our discounted whitelist price will be 0.4 ICP.
Do you want to? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. Do you want to kind of go back around what the Taco NFT gets you?
Ah, gets you delicious, delicious tacos. It gives you the feeling of fullness and happiness and that everything's going to be okay. You've had tacos before. You
Well, I
know what
have,
I'm
yeah.
talking about.
I've
Yeah,
had
so taco.
the IRL versions.
So Taco NFTs, I'm super excited about this, and I promise I'm not going to use my own space to shill too much here. I'm going to go shill in other people's spaces. So you're going to see me in a lot of Twitter spaces and a lot of marketing outreach this coming week as we try and fill up our whitelist and just get the word out. So Taco NFTs are inspired by my love of tacos. I just love tacos. I live in Los Angeles. I eat them all the time. They're cheap, they're affordable, they're delicious, and I like supporting the people that make them. And I like how it's such a fantastic piece of food that's accessible at all layers of civilization, from expensive
Mhm.
tacos to cheap tacos. It's like pizza. It's all good, just variations on good. And so I wanted to make an NFT inspired by my experience of loving tacos. And so that's where Taco NFTs came up with, and it's specifically designed to highlight the internet computer as a host for creativity and
Mm.
entrepreneurship and creating cool projects and and communities. Really is a big piece there. How do you utilize the blockchain in order to build community? And that's what we're trying to sort of demo and model. And one of the things I want to do is kind of open source my process so that people can replicate it and follow their passions and create community spaces on ICP using this template. So I partnered with a local artist named Miguel. He goes by Taco on Instagram and Twitter.
Perfect.
Incredibly
He was the
talented.
right
Yeah,
person.
yeah. He was born for this moment. So I've been working with Miguel for the last few months, and he's hand drawing all of the different layers. And so every taco is made up of a bunch of different attributes. We have backgrounds that are super cool, all sorts of different places you can eat tacos. Then you'll get, we got different types of tortilla, white corn, yellow corn, blue corn, flour, crunchy vampiro, some special cheesy additions, and some rares in there too. Then you've got meats. We've got over 30 meats on our list. Then we have various salsas, and then an option of cilantro and onion. I recommend it, obviously, but some people don't like cilantro, and that's your deal. And then you get a side as well, and the side is like a side of lime or a jalapeno or some pickles or any. We've got a lot of really really cool stuff in
Nice.
store for the sides too. So there might even be a little neurotic nod hidden in there
Nice.
somewhere. So we put all these, we've been building it. I have a massive Photoshop file that's collecting all these different pieces of art and attributes. And I'll just tell you, I've been with what we've been sharing on in our Discord and on Twitter. I've been burying the lead on the variety of tacos that are out there,
Hmm.
because I really want, when we mint, people to have that experience of like surprise and delight at being like, oh wow, this is super cool. This is more than I expected. I don't want I want, even from the floor to the rarest, I want it to feel fun and exciting and accessible. And that's part of the design is exactly that. And so the whole system is built on ICP. We're minting using the brand new Entrepot self mint tool. We're going to be one of the first projects out of the gate, so no code required, building out the whole tokenomics model through that tool. We'll have a lot of rares built in, so there'll be lots of different types of rarities and different cool combinations of all these different attributes. Those will be put together. We're going to mint for half an ICP each. That's by design to be really affordable and accessible, like tacos, because tacos are for everybody. And we want them to be fun. And then we've really tried to take a different tact with the utility piece, which is I want to lean away from NFTs as an investment or as a token or a portfolio. I don't recommend real life or digital tacos as a retirement plan, except for you, Kyle. You should go all in,
I'm
obviously,
all
on
in.
your tacos. So holding a taco, and this is all built on the ICP tech stack, holding a taco in your wallet will give you access to a private social network called the Taco Portal, which is powered by Discover. And so it'll be a gated Discover portal that only people holding the taco will have access to. And it's a private social media network where you can only post about tacos. And so we've been building our taco community on Discord, and that's been super, super fun. But once they mint, we're actually going to move everything on chain into Discover.
Mm.
And so what we really want to achieve there is, again, highlighting all the features of ICP through doing instead of just talking about it. So I don't want to write about these things. I want to do these things, and really put these ideas into practice. And so, yeah, we're super excited. What questions do you have about what taco questions can we talk about?
What did we conclude on whether or not a hot dog is a taco?
I think we voted yes.
Okay.
Was the end? We've
Are you
taken.
going to allow? Are you going to allow hot dog talk in the Discover portal?
I mean, listen, I'm a free speech advocate. I believe in freedom of the press and freedom of expression. One of the things I like about crypto and ICP is how international
Mm-hmm.
the culture is and the communities are. I really like that I'm talking about tacos, but I'm talking to people in Vietnam, and I'm talking to people in Europe, and I'm talking to people in Africa, and we're talking to people all over. And a thing that's been happening in the Discord that's been super cool is everyone posting, here's like the taco of my culture. Here's the Vietnamese taco.
Yeah.
Here's a Chinese taco. And I love that. I think that's been super fun. And so we've really taken this attitude of tacos are for everybody. Tacos are international. I love Mexican tacos, but we do not turn our noses up at things that are taco shaped or
Mm.
taco-esque or taco-like, or just make you feel like a taco. We're a big, welcoming, open taco tent. And so, but yeah, so we're gonna get that mint going. We're whitelisting.
Okay.
We're reaching out to a bunch of different communities, and then again, really highlighting how this is only possible on the ICP tech stack. And a good example of that is that half an ICP price point. You're going to pay that half ICP if you're not on our whitelist. Please join our Discord and join our whitelist. And then your only transaction fee is 0.0001 ICP. And so doing this super affordable NFT that's like a my first NFT and really great place to onboard new users into the space, that's not possible on Ethereum, where a half an ICP, well, you can't spend an ICP over there, but the equivalent of $6 taco is going to come with $130 something gas fee. And so that really raises a barrier to accessibility. And so a big focus here is, how do we get these tacos into everyone's hands? How do we build something community driven, non-scammy, non-schemy? And we're also like, there's no television show coming. There's no video game coming. I have a joke in my fact that tacos are a street food. So where's your roadmap?
Yeah.
And we're trying to do something different, where instead of presenting, here's all the dreams we have of the future, we are delivering 100% on day one. And the community, our aims are very, very modest, and we want to really exceed them. And so I'm really excited. It's going to be super fun. The community has been just super engaged. I've been really enjoying creating all sorts of taco content on Twitter. And so I've been working on a video for the last day or two. And then the plan is, right around the time this podcast drops on Friday, I'm going to drop a video announcing our mint date and our price publicly for the first time. So you're behind the curtain now. You're on the secret. I should promote you to a moderator in the Discord with this
you don't have
level
to
of
do that.
alpha that you're a taco alpha you're getting here.
So wait, I mean, you've said the date, but I guess because this podcast is coming out later, May 5th, people can mark it down on their calendars.
May 5th for the whitelist, May 6th for public minting, half an ICP public price, 0.4 ICP for whitelist, and we'll limit 5 for whitelist members.
And I love the idea, like you said, showcasing the internet computer, not just the cheapness of creating an NFT project, not the fact that you can just have it all live on chain at an incredible price, not even the fact that you're doing all this without even knowing. I mean, you don't have the technical background to that you like, you're able to use internet computer tooling that is allowing you to do this without a lot of technical background. But also, just then, anyone who comes into your Taco NFT who's not familiar with the internet computer, I mean, they're going to end up at Discover for this portal, and they're going to start thinking, hey, this is really cool that you have a Reddit where I got into this through this NFT. I'm starting to see how blockchain, specifically the only blockchain that can do this is the internet computer, how this can actually be, products of the future, right? Web products of the future.
You want a job selling tacos? You're hired, man. You can be our door-to-door NFT salesman. We're hiring.
I think I'll just be buying them on the back end. I'll buy them I'll be smoking my own supply.
The benefits aren't good, but the company culture is quite strong.
Let's talk. All right, so let's talk company culture, as in podcast culture, as in some topics that are going to be divisive between you and I. You want to move on?
Oh man, it is time for. I feel like this has become the NNS spam podcast. This has become our core. This is our home. We live here. You and I have rented this 1-bedroom condo together, and it's you, me, and NNS spam living together here. And it's getting. I guess we should invite Bob Bodley to be a roommate too. It only seems fair.
He pops up. So I think of it like the in-law that never leaves your house, right? You're like, hey, you came over just for dinner, and yet it's 3 days later. Why are you not leaving? And that's what this
Finch, Houseguests, and NNS proposals all start to stink after 3 days. Excellent. All right, can you give me like the 2-minute previously on recap of how did we? Give me the really quick. How did we get here?
All right, so we've got spammers for two purposes. One is previously it was cheap to put your message out there as spam on the NNS. It was 1 ICP, and the second reason is because governance rewards go up. So essentially, when there's spam, everyone who's participating in governance gets more, and then that comes at the expense of the people who have kind of walked away from their neurons, or for whatever reason they're not participating in governance. And so we're still getting spam. We've got 2 proposals that have already been accepted. One that's been put in place to solve that. So on the advertisement side, the 10 ICP rejection cost is now live. So every spam you see, it's getting rejected. Somebody's paying 10 ICP just to put that up there. Now that's fine for now, because those governance rewards for the whales that more than makes up for paying that 10 ICP. So you had Y Sims, who this is probably podcast number 4. So I guess he's a roommate of ours in this weird spam apartment that we have.
It's kind of
The
it's more of a co-op, I think
co-op,
now. So
yeah,
we'll use the SNS to assign
we've
chores on our chore
we've
wheel.
got a little garden outside that we each have chores to do. So Y Sims puts out a proposal that just says, "Hey, I'm crowdfunding. If you give me 600 ICP, I'm going to keep posting the spam to keep your rewards high." Because the reason he can do that is the second proposal that was accepted was the one that we put forward that said we should re people should basically have to reconfirm their followings, and so there's a lot of people who have defaulted into the non-governance ones. They're just default following Dfinity. They didn't make that choice. That's just the default. And what we're saying is, hey, every 6 months you should have to check that. Once that goes through, all those people would stop following Dfinity in those ones, the people who aren't paying attention or aren't interested or have walked away from the project. And that would then level out the differences in governance rewards. So iSIMS kind of notices like, hey, this a solution's in play. At some point, the spam's not going to pay off. So let's just get as much spam in as we can. And so he did a crowdfunding for 600 ICP. He raised it in like a day. So there's some whales out there who are like, I like my rewards. And so here's some ICP. And that brings us to today.
Okay, couple questions here.
Yep.
First of all, I think for disclosure, I'm required to ask this. Kyle, when you're not airdrop farming, are you a whale funding NNS spam?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
It drives me nuts like you could not believe. And what drives me nuts too is that I actually kind of agree with some of it too. So
I just like your emotional investment. And if I could get you this engaged in my TV show recommendations, I'd be a very happy camper. So he got his spam proposal. So basically, the 10 ICP is designed to be a barrier for the spam. But if you can get someone else to cover that 10 ICP, it's all good, right?
yeah.
Or not all good is probably not the right way to put that, but it works economically. You are succeeding in gaming the system.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us up to today. And so let's run through. There's like a bunch of different opinions that have been floating around on the internet. So let's try and recap a couple of those different viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
and then you and I are going to solve this live on the air.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to put this issue to bed.
We've said that the last 3 weeks, and yet the problem is the issue stays in our bed. That next week it'll be in our bed again.
We are content farming. We will till the soil until we've extracted every inch of life from it for this podcast. We live here now.
Yep.
All right, so let's start with IC Dev's new proposal.
Okay. So they have a proposal to just go back to, okay, so way back when we said governance proposals should be weighted to be 20x. And so they have a proposal to say, no, let's go back to the 1x governance for a small period of time while we wait for that reset followees proposal to go through. So they said, I think it was some date in December, there's a temporary proposal. And if it's approved, we'll set the governance weighting to 1. And then on September, I don't know, let's say 20th or I forget what the date was, it would get set back to 20.
Yep, and that dovetails nicely with, I'm looking at a meme that Cat Pirate posted titled "How to Address Spam Proposals on the NNS," and it features a graph with revert tokenomics proposal on each end of the graph, and in the middle is a lengthy crying image of all the different various solutions we're throwing against the wall here. So I think let's talk about what is the merit of hit undo and revert the whole thing back to where we were.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. What's the narrative?
You're like, okay. So I disagree with Cat.
I know, that's why I want you to explain it.
So you're putting me in a bad situation here. Okay, so the merit is
we're all in a bad situation. We live on an NNS spam farm, Kyle.
So yeah. It solves the problem, the spam problem. Yeah, we didn't have a spam problem before we started monkeying with these things. If we went back to where it was before, then it solves that problem, and it's a solution. Humans tend to like the devil that they know, rather than the devil that they don't know. And so it's a solution that takes us back into that comfort of the devil that we already know. It's the ex-girlfriend who you know she treats you bad, but you know her. So that's how I kind of think of that. And so you like how I had you made me argue it, and then I'm like, okay, my argument is this is an ex-girlfriend.
I don't know why it has to be gendered. It could just be a toxic ex of any gender. It
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
doesn't.
well,
All right. So what don't tell me why don't you like this? Why does this fail to meet the goals you're looking for?
so I come from this from a fund, and people could disagree with this statement here, but fundamentally, I don't believe that the tokenomics or even the NNS design was intended to be static. I don't believe that Definity got it right on the first try, and I don't believe that they think that or thought that they were going to get it right on the first time. They set up a system because you need a system. They put a lot of thought into it. It's a great system, but I think there's still. I mean, this is a space that really humans. I mean, again, humans haven't done a lot in this space, and so there's no textbook you can go back and read. It's that Ben Horowitz, not Horowitz, Horowitz book. You know, the hard thing about hard things. It's the hard thing is that there's nobody's gone through this before, so we're trying to do something new. Okay, so in my mind, going backwards just because we know the problems that it has isn't the solution. It's rather you go forwards and you see what new problems you've created, and then you use that to kind of guide your next directions. There may be times to go backwards. This is not one of those times, in my opinion.
All right. So let me challenge you a little bit on this here.
Let's do
So
it.
exempting the backwards angle, what's wrong with the tokenomics proposal in terms of the why did I understand your sort of philosophical objection to hitting, command Z, command Z, command Z, command Z until we get
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to where before, oh no. Like I kind of like you don't want to retreat, and you don't want to kind of give up. You want to solve for the future. But why isn't reverting the tokenomics solving the problem?
I think it leads us back into that same situation where you have passive NNS participants, and it encourages lack of participation and governance.
Okay.
And in my mind, passivity amongst the NNS community is one of the ways the NNS community fails.
Interesting. All right, we'll come back to that point in
Yeah,
just a
yeah. I
minute.
have I think there's two ways the NNS could fail, and passivity of its members is one of it.
I get that. All right, let's move on. I want to represent a few other viewpoints
Yeah.
here. We've got a post from Daniel at Crypto is Good. He and I touched on this a little bit on our weekly Twitter space as well to kind of get into it a little bit there. He asked the question, what is the goal? He was talking about the follower reset, which we talked
Mhm.
about last week. What is the goal of the reset followee thing? Are we really forcing people to take part in governance, or is it malicious? And you responded, arguing the point that you're talking about here, that the whole system is designed. And he argues a lot of people are going to feel cheated. We need a set it and forget it solution. Help convince me, because I don't agree, and I'm not just arguing it. I think I genuinely don't agree. Why is the passivity so bad? Because if passivity is so bad, why do follow neurons exist at all?
So, I mean, that's a good point. If you can think about, okay, so let's say zero activity from the from NNS participants as a whole. In my mind, that's the equivalent of having like a board of directors for a company that is not invested in that company, right? They're the old boys
Speaking of
club.
Twitter.
Yes, yes, yes. Twitter is the perfect example of why we don't want a set it and forget it. I've seen I've worked at companies where the board has just allowed mediocrity, not really cared. HP is a great example of another company. If you remember back in the early 2010s, I think it was, or maybe even a little bit before that, there's a culture of just the board didn't really put in the work to make the company great. So the company lost its way. I mean, you have all these examples where a passive governance body is just not it's not going to produce an efficient system. So I think that that's how the NNS would lose its way is if too many of the participants just want to set it and forget it, they want to basically set up their follower and then come back 8 years from now. Then essentially what you're going to have is an attack vector for anyone to come in and really start destroying the internet computer because there's just too much passivity. And it basically kills any kind of creative or innovative discussion within the community.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think you might be going a little far there, but that's
Why is that?
okay.
No, wait. Why is that?
All right, so I'm ready. I am now prepared. I am prepared to unveil
Okay.
my hottest take.
Well, hold on. Let me frame this. Okay, I want your hot take, but I want to frame this. Is
I got a
in my mind,
sizzling plate of takes here, Kyle. You want me to just stand here next to the table with these fajita takes? Just
the waiter's taking his time to bring him out from the kitchen. You know the plate's going to be warm, which means it was sitting underneath the red light, and so just bear with
I'm
me.
holding it barehanded. You can smell singed flesh, but please go on.
Go on. Okay, thanks. Just hey, hold your horses. So here's my argument: is there
We're
is a
not serving
spectrum.
horse meat for the last time.
Oh, that's a good inside joke for anyone who's listened to all 7 episodes. I think absolute passivity is not good. Okay. So then what is the bare minimum beyond that? And what the reset followee proposal was basically trying to say is the bare minimum to be a participant in the NNS, again, to be a board member of the Internet Computer, the bare minimum is you should log in twice to just confirm that you still want to follow the same person, or maybe make a decision to follow someone else. I'll add too, it solves a problem that we haven't talked about, which is going to be forever following. If you don't have something that requires somebody to take that action, if I die and nobody comes into my neurons, like I don't pass on my neurons to my wife and give her, my private key, I'm going to be following, well, I vote manually, but if I was following ICP-MN, I'm following ICP-MN for the rest of my life. For the rest, well, I guess I'm dead. So for the rest of the NNS's existence, that could become a big problem at some point.
I mean, I'm concerned. I don't think your wife is going to be able to step in and co-host this podcast with me, as my more immediate overriding concern, on account of one not existing and being imaginary, and then two, it seems unclear that she's going to be able to provide the level of Kyle insight that I've been accustomed to.
You're gonna get 3 episodes in, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, why did I get the worst of the? I had the worst Langham all this time, and this is the best of the Langhams." And Kyle's wife, you're a dream come true.
All right, let's. You know what? I'm going to switch my
All right,
follow
hot
neuron
take.
from Kyle to Kyle's wife.
Kyle's
I'm
wife,
sold. She'll just come in with a follow neuron style. She'll be like, Jesse, whatever you think, we'll
whatever.
just go with that vote.
I'm going to set up a proposal to get a neuron named as Kyle's wife.
It just takes an arbitrary different position to whatever you vote yes on. It goes, no, I don't think so.
No.
That's
the anti-Kyle vote. All right, give me your hot
take. It only submits proposals that say, I don't know, what do you want to eat tonight?
How do you want to solve the spam?
Here is my hot take, and I do have to credit Cool Pineapple 18 and Lightning Lad have been touching on this, and as is Crypto is Good. This is not an original thought, but it's sort of where I've come around. I think the money in politics is toxic, and I think that's true in real life, and I think it's true, even doubly true, on the NNS. I think this actually perfectly dovetails with our conversation about airdrop farming. We have created a system where people are essentially airdrop farming NNS rewards and gamifying the NNS system. And that is, as we've touched on many times, the problem is always people, not the technology. It's the meat space that is introducing all these issues. That we have a system where the incentives of the system are aligned for the spam. And in fact, Wenzel helpfully, our mascot, and Wenzel helpfully demonstrated this entire system with good faith. In good faith, he taught all of us how to spam the NNS. And so with his 30 proposals in 30 days idea, that coincidentally happened with it. So my feeling is that paying people to vote is bad, that paying people to participate in the democracy is bad, that it misaligns incentives, and we want to align those incentives. And so let me give an example of video gaming. I think is a really, really great example of how you align incentives. That when people play video games where you don't win any money or anything like that, you play for fun. You play for entertainment. You play because it's fun to shoot aliens in the face, or it's fun to jump on turtles or mushrooms or whatever it is that you're doing in your video game.
I can tell
It's
you haven't
fun.
played video games in 30 years.
Ooh, I'm gonna do a video game recommendation now. Actually,
Ooh,
I just
you
played
want to
some
prove
really.
me wrong?
Yeah, you just well, I just had I had some family visiting, and I was showing them some of my. I have a bunch of cool artsy indie games that I make everyone
Okay.
play. That I'm always like, oh, you don't like video games? Have I got a game for you?
What platform? Is it computer, PC, or
I usually play. I have a PlayStation, and
okay?
it's a 4. I haven't made the jump to the
Right.
5, and I'm like reluctant to buy any of the 5 games. I'm going to get there eventually.
Once
But
once
I have a
you're
Nintendo
Taco.
Switch too, which I super recommend. I really like my Nintendo
Okay.
Switch. Anyways, we'll come back to video game. We just type into recommendations. Video games, weird indie, depressing video games. Because have you ever thought video games are fun, but what if it was an analogy for depression? Would be because that's what's coming down the pipe. Just to warn you. But let's talk about play to earn video games,
Hmm.
specifically with the NFT. And this is in the Line Goes Up documentary by Dan Olson,
Hmm.
Foldable Human on YouTube, which I've written about and we've talked about in the past. 2.5 hour documentary about crypto, extremely critical of crypto, highly, highly recommended for everybody. I really, really think it's good. I think it's very smart for understanding both crypto and people's objections to crypto and their culture. That when you introduce a play to earn aspect in a video game, suddenly the player's relationship to that game dramatically changes. And
Yeah.
instead of optimizing for fun, they optimize for profit. And that is the way people work. People are lazy and people create shortcuts to get paid. So the reason people do airdrop farming is because airdrop farming works. If
Hmm.
airdrop farming didn't work, they wouldn't do it. The reason people are doing spam proposals is because spam proposals work.
Yeah.
That we talked about guardrails made of cotton candy,
Oh, that's
and
right.
I want to close the road. I don't want to reinforce the guardrails. I want to shut down the road.
So walk me through the what your solution would be then. How do you
Yes.
separate these things? Who's doing the governing at that point?
My job is to get more people involved in ICP and grow the ecosystem. We want more
Hmm.
people developing on it. We want more people interacting with the system. It is a fantastic system. It's the future of the internet. And the sooner you get there, more opportunity there is for everybody. The way the NNS works is too complicated and it is too hard. It is a it is asking it is asking people to join the ICP cult, and I think that's bad. I think
Hmm.
that's a huge stumbling block. I think you and I we are so deep underwater that we've got nitrogen narcosis setting in, and we're trying to take off of our masks and talk to fish. Maybe it's not working as intended, but this is the way the system we designed works. And I think the system itself is incentivizing the wrong things. And
Hmm.
so I want to take a step back. And instead of trying to correct the problem with the spam proposals, we ask, why is it happening? And how do we realign incentives for the whole thing? And
Hmm.
my number one top priority is how do we get more people interested in staking in the ICP and NNS system? And how do we get that as a valuable investment for the maximum number of people? And so, with that in mind, I think asking people to then sit on the board of directors is too much. I think it's a bad requirement. I think follow neurons are brilliant
Hmm.
and genius, but that there is a careful balance in terms of taking advantage of a neuron versus an abdication of responsibility for being involved with voting in this democratic system. And that's like the scales that we're attempting to balance here. I want to eliminate the game and I want to eliminate the benefit for gaming the system and eliminate any need for spamming the system. So my solution is we keep the neuron system, the follow neuron system, and we lean into the neuron system. That if your neuron votes on, let's say, 50 or 75% of
Mm.
motions over the course of a week, that you receive 100% of your maximum reward. You either receive 0 or 100% of your maximum reward, and all rewards are divvied up not based on individual participation. You
Hmm.
either qualify for that bonus check or you don't qualify. It's a yes or a no. That's it. And so the number of proposals becomes irrelevant. And I also really dislike the idea of differentiating between manually voting and follow neuron voting too, which I feel like is a little bit kind of just under the covers here in terms of visibility for people saying, well, I vote every day. and I put all this work into it, I should be getting rewarded for that. And I kind of wholesale reject that. And so I think we want to make it as easy as possible. And I think this feeling that crypto is good, Daniel has talked about that it feels like we're changing the rules of the game as it's going. I really relate to that. It makes it feel like my people's investment is unstable, or they're not getting the rewards that they thought they would. And so yeah, so my proposal is we move to a system that eliminates the need for gaming, that we have if you embrace the follow neuron system, if your neuron votes in, I'm just saying 50, 75, whatever the number is, I don't know, but the idea is you vote in the majority either manually or via follow neuron. So if you just set yours to follow the maximalist network, that would do it, right? And that would follow it. And then if you follow a neuron that dies or stops doing it, then you fall below that threshold, then you stop participating either. But the goal is we make it a convenient, easy, accessible system for it, and we disincentivize the thing that you want to incentivize participation. It incentivizes all participation, good and bad. And I think we've learned that the bad faith will steamroll everything else no matter what. So we eliminate that.
Yeah.
And then we add a spam button. And I think something like, I actually would argue maybe we go back to 1 ICP for rejection,
Right.
and 10 ICP if you get hit with something like 75% of the people vote that it's spam.
Right.
So way, way high number to be qualified as spam. And that has a 10 ICP rejection rate and doesn't add to any bonuses.
Yeah.
But that's my proposal is, and then the people that are involved and running neurons and all of that, at that point, the idea is, the incentive is to create the best system possible that grows the platform, but we don't pay people to vote.
Yeah, so I mean, you're absolutely right in a lot of what you're saying. So I guess we're not
I think so
as
too.
polar opposite. So and some of the things you're saying are things that have been discussed in the forum, like the idea of like an abstain vote, right? Like I don't want to lose. Like the fact that you're forced to vote yes or no, and it might be a topic that you don't have an opinion on, or you don't have the expertise needed. Maybe there should be an abstain. You're kind of going about a different way, where you're saying like, hey, you can abstain just by not voting at all, and as long as you don't do that too often, then you get your rewards. I think that's great. So you have some ideas there, right? The idea of abstaining, the idea of still getting your rewards. There's also this idea where we might need to, separate out by topic, right? Like ICP-MN. If there's a development question, you probably don't want ICP-MNN representing you. You probably want IC devs, and so maybe getting more nuanced in that. These are all examples. I do want to go back to what your point was about changing the rules, because that to me is something that I'm just fired up about, and I want to say it this way: there is not an investment in the world, and I would challenge everyone to send me in Twitter at Kyle Langham, send me an example of an investment in which the rules cannot change after it's made, right? So let me give you an example. You buy some Apple stock, right? You just made an investment. After you make that investment, here's some things that can happen. The dividend can change, right? The business plan could change. Apple could decide they're going to make banjos instead of iPhones, right?
I would
They
100% buy an Apple-made banjo. I just want to
what's
go on
that?
record.
What's that is they would make just as much money selling
It
banjos.
just has the one string.
It's just it's clean. You can make an investment in Apple, and then they can inflate or deflate away your ownership, right? They have the ability to issue more stock or to buy back stock. They can sell off big chunks of the business without without anything, and they can do all those things I just said without you even voting on it, right? These are all board of directors or even Apple management decisions that you don't have really much say in. So that's an example. Let's take like a mortgage, right? A mortgage is a legal contract between the buyer and the lender, and yet those rules can change, right? So, for example, I refinanced my mortgage 2 years ago, and within the first year after refinancing it, it was sold off 2 different times. So now I have a different service provider with a different level of service provided for the mortgage. So this idea that like, hey, if somebody makes an investment, you can't change the rules on them. That does not exist in the real world. That's great in theory, but that's not actually how the real world operates. And so I just think that people who say we can't change rules are not really putting the thought in to say like, actually the rules change. The difference is that we actually have control over the rules changing, whereas in all those other examples, we don't have the control, right? Apple shareholders aren't voting on the majority of the things happening within the company. Your mortgage can change, and that's part of the contract that it can change, but you don't have control over. You don't have to provide consent that yes, Wells Fargo can buy up my mortgage. So
Kyle, how can you be so right, so good looking, and yet so
thanks.
fundamentally wrong all at the
Wait,
same
what?
time?
What?
It's a little remarkable. All right, so
All right. Let's
you are
tell me.
100% right
Hold
about
on, hold on.
everything you
Tell
just
me
said.
more about those first two things before you go into the wrong.
You are 100% right about those things, and I think the liquid and dynamic nature of the NNS and its ability to be responsive and grow and future proof is part of the design of ICP NNS that makes it so exciting and interesting, and our ability to grab the reins and help choose the direction. And what I'm saying is we need to be more thoughtful about that direction, that
Yeah.
we've got the reins, and I agree with you. So I think you are totally right about every single thing you said. But again, I think you miss the big picture, which is how do people feel about it? Again, as always, the people are the problem. And we want people
Yeah.
to feel that this is a fantastic. The current set of NNS proposals and solutions to this are designed by people that are too in love with the NNS. That's my pitch. The people doing this live and breathe and think about the NNS every day, and that is kind of a bad thing. That I think they have lost all perspective to people on the outside looking in. And that if I'm out there pitching, hey, and I am like, hey, you should be investing in the NNS. I mean, like literally, when I talk to people about marketing the NNS, they're like, "What should I say about the current spam proposal?" And I'm like, "Don't talk about that. Like, it is going to get. It's a momentary crisis that is going to get resolved, I
Yeah.
believe." But I think that all of these resolutions are based on the idea that you live and die. I think the people that care the most about the NNS should be the people voting in it the most, right?
Hmm.
That's a self that the follow neuron system will help those people come raise to the top, and that people are incentivized to see ICP succeed, and that's the impetus to participate in the NNS. That by eliminating the gaming, we eliminate any need for bad faith in the NNS. And I'm not saying we don't want people voting. I'm saying there's a threshold for you get a voting bonus, but it's not based on individual rewards for an individual vote. It's based on a general big picture. Hey, you're participating in the system. But that what we want is a system that is appealing and understandable and feels valid and rewarding to participate in. And everything we're doing with fine tuning this sort of bureaucratic, you got to log in every 6 months. You get none of that. That's all bad. That's all stumbling blocks that make people say, I don't want to, this sounds like an unstable place to put my money. What we want, and as it is, like we're going to have, as the NNS grows, the APR is still going to go down as more and more money gets reinvested in it too. Like those things are all very real and are going to continue to happen. But I think the idea of to put it in school terms, I want the rewards to switch from a points A, B, C system or a percentage system. I think we move to a pass-fail system where we say you have to engage with the system, but the follow neurons are designed to not have to operate them day to day. And if we're going to create a system that says, hey, you have to log in and re-verify your follow neuron, why are we even bothering with the neuron? And there's nothing to eat. You can't get emailed telling you that this. So I think a set it and forget it is good, is preferable. And that if you follow a neuron that becomes dead, that is your responsibility to deal with it. And there is like a trigger there, but we eliminate the farming mechanism altogether. And then the people, because I don't see moving in this direction would dramatically change who are the neurons people are following. None of them are spam based. They're all based on people leadership, growing organically in the IC community. So what we want is a system that rewards participation, but is not sort of living and dying with these fine tuning, these little teeny details. We want something that says, put your money in here and it'll grow. Put your money in here and it'll help, follow the people that are worthy of your trust. And you still have agency through the neurons. But if we're going to in any way sort of differentiate between following and voting manually, like why do we even have the follow neurons in the first place? Like I want to embrace them wholeheartedly.
Right. So to be clear, there's no difference between voting manually or following, just in case anyone's listening and they
Well, I'll tell
they
you, I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is if you vote manually, then you're getting all your rewards. And if you vote following a neuron, you're depending on that neuron to get you all of those rewards. And so my
right.
solution here is we move that bar down from, oh, they missed one vote and now you didn't get that little bit of cash for that thing. And I think that is, again, bad. So bad. So get the money out of politics is my both my NNS and my real life recommendation.
So I think if I can sum it up what you're saying, because I think you're actually touching on something that I had not considered until you just said it. It's we're in like a firefight mode, right? Where we have this problem and we're trying to solve a specific problem. And while trying to do that, we might have lost sight of the bigger goal of the NNS, which is really just to govern the internet computer so that it succeeds, right? That's the ultimate goal of the NNS. It's not the goal of the NNS is not to prevent spam on the NNS. The goal of the NNS is to govern the internet computer.
See,
And
now you're pretty to look at and making sense.
okay,
I
yeah.
like where this is going.
So yeah, so okay. So I don't know. Given that different framework, maybe next week I'll have some more thoughts on it. But I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying that we're in the weeds. We're focused on the here and now problem, and we may be losing sight of the long term goal, or really just the objective of the NNS. So, all right, I'll concede that point to you, and I'll accept that I'm just really good looking and sometimes right.
Well, I think, it's that what I'm saying. I'm trying to bring a little of that. I'm not living and dying inside the NNS perspective. And if anything, I think I'm not seeing a problem with. I think we embrace the neuron follow system as much as possible, right? And we embrace a set it and forget it, and the idea of you as an investor that's putting your money into the system and then have an ability to follow people you trust. That is set it and forget it, and that's good. That's what we
Mm,
want. We want people feeling like this is not a fidgety. If you want to have your money make you money but have it be super active, you can just pour it into opening a small business and then work your butt off every single day. I
mhm.
think so much of this is designed to embrace we want the money flowing into the system. The spice must flow is what I'm trying to say. And I want the spice to flow into the NNS.
A spicy taco. So that's a so one of the problems we have right now is a lack of named neurons, which
Yep.
again I want to say because we keep calling them known neurons, but that is actually something different, at least to me. So I'm hoping the community will come around named neuron for anyone like the ICP-MN or CycleDAO or ICDevs. But then you had put in the show notes the recent tweet from Weed Patch 2, who goes by Icy Weed, and Lightning Lad regarding the Fool's Court, which is a DAO. So this is again a solution to that. We need more named neurons. I'll just say that's something we want, a diversity of opinions and a diversity in expertise that people can follow. And so I love Icy Weed and Lightning Lad. They're coming together. They're saying we're going to take a DAO approach to this, and our goal is to represent the everyman, the common man, as a fool would in the good old Shakespeare days. And so they're coming. They've just recently announced their Fool's Court, which would just be essentially a DAO that's going to be a named neuron, and perhaps have other ways of representing the everyman's opinion in IC governance.
I agree. I should ask them to submit my proposal. I think that's the ticket. I think that's the right fit
Yeah.
here, because I am definitely cribbing some of my thoughts from this team here of Weed
Hmm.
Patch and Lightning Lad. Like, they've both been quite outspoken on these topics, and I
Hmm.
think haven't been inspired to do this. And this is, in a lot of ways, for all of our issues, that this is a crisis. I like the activity and the churn this crisis is creating in the community, and the engagement and the of debating what do we want, how do we get there, and where are we trying to go.
Let's be clear. This is not a crisis. It's a issue. And I want to just say that because like a crisis is like how you get Bitcoin Cash, right? You have a fundamental difference between the community that forces a fork or some other splitting of the thing. I don't know that anyone's thinking of splitting off the NNS in any kind of way, but
No, I'm okay. Maybe crisis is a kerfuffle,
a
a
kerfuffle.
uh, a kerfuffle.
A
an
jaunt.
issue du jour.
Actually, issue du jour is really. I mean, we're a 24/7 news culture, so issue du jour probably works.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to see what these guys produce, and I'm excited to see what solutions you come forward to. Maybe there's a neurotic follow neuron in our future here.
Well, we already said we were going to create the party one, right? Or at least
The
you
party
were the
neuron.
party
Yeah.
neuron.
I'm not sure the party neuron and the neurotic neuron are really going to see eye to eye on everything.
Hey, are you calling me a square?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I am actually. That is exactly what's happening here now. So.
Wait till we get to my recommendation, and then you can.
All right, Kyle, let's do a little Ask Neurotic here. I've got a question here from at my simple ID, and they ask, since NNS's voting thread may only interest IC community that concerns about governance, why not start using District instead of Twitter? And when are you considering to make your Neuron NNS public for people to follow your Neuron? So we've got two questions here. I think they're good. I think the second one is probably a little broader, and I think is a bigger question about should we be dog fooding the internet computer more in our internet computer related
Mhm.
business? And I have some thoughts on that, but I think Kyle, the second one's directed at you. Can we follow Kyle's neuron directly? Can we get on the Kyle? Can we set and forget on the Kyle train?
So my ICP-MN neuron is public information. So that's out there. In fact, that tweet there's a tweet that the question was proposed to in a tweet thread with myself and Herbert Yang, and it's a great question. And so if you read that tweet thread, you can see my ICP-MN. In fact, what I do is that neuron follows my personal neuron, which I'm not going to reveal because I don't need that kind of scrutiny. But anyway, so when I vote with my personal, it automatically votes on my ICP-MN. But and I put that in the tweet thread. So the first question, though, by my simple ID is in relation to Herbert Yang's been posting his voting on how he's voting on the NNS for every single proposal and giving some justification, which I thought was awesome transparency. And so people could kind of see why he votes. Which, by the way, if you're not following Herbert Yang, it's just at Herbert Yang. You got to be start following him on Twitter. He puts out so much good stuff, and as a the GM of Definity Asia, he's got some good information. So I started posting my voting, which I thought was good for transparency, especially since I'm part of a named neuron. So basically, my simple ID is calling me out, saying this is something that only you would only be interested in if you're part of the internet computer community. Why are you not putting this on an internet computer platform? And he called me out. So I started switching over to District for my vote justifications. And but it's just a general question, and I'd like your input on it, Jesse, about in what cases should we be using the Web3 products and dogfooding ourselves? And in what cases is it okay to still use Web2 and support Elon?
So great question. Obviously, always vote against Elon Musk. That's just on principle alone. Welcoming our new Twitter overlord.
Hey, you know what? You can crap on Elon, but if he offered me a free Tesla, I'd be his best friend.
I mean, best friend feels strong. Seems like kind of a weird dude, but
I'd be his best friend even without the Tesla, honestly, because I bet he's got a nice plane to fly
I
on.
thought we were best friends. Now you're kicking me to the curb for Mr.
For
Musk
Elon,
just because he has more Twitter followers than me?
my friendship is for sale. If you haven't realized, Jesse, I'm a diehard capitalist.
I am changing my follow neuron as we speak. I had this relationship all wrong. All right. So I think sort of the broader question is, shouldn't we be using ICP technology wherever possible? And my answer is on the sort of broad theoretical level, yes. In my day-to-day operation, it is sort of an in-between. I want to get there, but we're not there today. But the question becomes, what can we do to move us there? So,
Mhm.
perfect example of this. I had a really lengthy internal and external debate about community building for my Taco NFT project. And in the end, I decided to use Discord for building the community to launch the project. And I chose that because I wanted the project to be successful. That I went to where the community was, and where the community is in Discord. And that is where the NFT trading community really lives. And that if I were to create the outreach platform for Taco NFTs in District or in Discover, both of which I very seriously considered, the conclusion was I would be kneecapping my ability to grow the community and onboard more people into Taco NFTs and onboard more people into ICP in the process. So we wanted to go to where those customers are instead of asking them to come to us. Was really the thought process there. So I want to get there. That is definitely the goal. I'm strongly incentivized, and the balance is I'm planning to abandon my Discord for Taco NFTs once the Taco portal comes online, which is all hosted on Discover. So we're going to migrate the community over there because we'll be verifying with holding a Taco NFT in your wallet, which is one of the main features. So all of our internal governance and things like that, everything's going to move over there for those conversations, and just waiting on SNS, so we can implement all of our Taco DAO features.
That's coming.
And so I want to be there. It is just tough because it's an immature platform, and I want it to grow, but it's not ready for prime time yet. And so it's sort of 1 foot in one and 1 foot in the other. And so I think your approach of, I'm not abandoning Twitter as my online presence, but I am going to move some of this really specific content that is going to be, the people that want it are already in that ecosystem and are already there. And the people that want it are willing. For them, it's a benefit to jump into something that's hosted in a canister instead of on just a cloud server out there somewhere. And so you just have to be careful where you're not creating stumbling blocks to onboarding more people. So I'm really against, it kind of dovetails nicely with the voting conversation. I'm against the dogma, the purity test of how can this be? And instead, I just want to answer what's going to get the most people and what's going to support the most long-term growth. And so insisting on 100% pure, it has to be hosted on ICP today is, I think, the system simply is too immature. It's too young. It's not ready, and it would collapse under those requirements. But we're getting there. And so constantly asking the question, what's new there? What can we move into? What is Discover building? What are all these different platforms building? Nuance is a new Medium competitor built on ICP. I'm starting to see pop up in some cool places in interesting ways too. And so evaluating that, could I move off of Medium and onto Nuance, as somewhere for my long form writing? And so trying to make those case by case evaluations where that's the goal, but it's okay to say it's not ready yet. Right. Because again, my job isn't to use the ICP. My job is to promote the ICP. And so I want to use the most effective tools I have available to me to do that. And they're coming. Right. But until someone invents that ICP-based time machine, they're not here yet. But if someone's working on that, I would be interested in acquiring tokens in that.
Can you airdrop me? Yeah, no, you touched on probably the two problems, right? And well, before that, there's a clear, and I think this is where my simple idea is getting at, is there's a clear use case where if it's only relatable to the IC community, let's use the IC tools. So, NNS conversation, maybe we really should be moving that to Discover and District and Open Chat. But then you have the jump to full Web3 is tough because, well, two reasons. So one is if all of us went to District and left Twitter, the IC community is not going to grow because, like you said, we're not where the potential market is. And then the second one is it's hard to leave behind what you've already built. And this is that Web 2, mantra of they control your data. So if you leave all that behind. So I've been thinking about, so you and I have talked kind of privately. I've got an idea of a product I want to launch. I want to launch it. It's going to be launched completely on chain, using only internet computer tools. And by going through that, it's kind of made me think about like my Substack, right? I'm sitting on a Web 2 platform, my Twitter activity sitting on a Web 2 platform. And it's like, well, it's hard for me to leave Substack because I've got all these followers and I've, built up a following and I don't want to leave that behind and have to start over, but that's almost what you have to do to switch over. So I don't know if I have a good answer other than the things that make sense, definitely let's switch over. Let's make a conscious effort to. And then the other areas, I guess it's going to have to just take time until it does make sense. But I do think I'll switch my Substack over to Nuance pretty soon.
Yeah, maybe let's sort of high spot. What are the other platforms you see that you're like looking at right now, being like, okay, this is getting somewhere. So for me, it's Discover,
Hmm.
which I'm using to back up the Taco portal and power the Taco portal.
Hmm.
And that's based not just on what Discover is today, but what Discover is going to be in the near future too. That I'm very, very excited about, because technically on Discover, every portal is its own DAO,
Hmm.
and you can do some really cool features with those DAO. Again, SNS implementation is coming and things like that. And so embracing that decentralized organization that reflects the surface, reflects the form and function, reflect each other, I think is really exciting there.
Hmm. So to me, it's a lot of it is not just, hey, we need to move to Web3 just to move to Web3, but it's what is the added benefit of doing so. So getting out of a situation where you're locked into a platform is a great reason. But also, what are the other things? So I haven't looked into Gmail so much, um, and I haven't thought about it because that Gmail will probably be the last thing I give up on the Web2 world. But Catalyze instead of Discord, I think sounds like it's got some promise. I haven't seen the MVP yet, but it sounds like it's got promise. And then Nuance obviously is a direct competitor to Substack and Medium, so that could be a possibility as well.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something I just want to signal boost and double down on there, which is build things that aren't just
Yeah.
replicating existing Web 2.0, build things with a real benefit. And this is a conversation I have. I talk to kind of crypto skeptics pretty regularly. I like engaging in the debate. And a regular talking point is, why would I bother doing this if all you can do is replicate this existing functionality? You're not
Right.
adding anything new. And if anything, you're actually adding overhead and complicating things in some ways. Having a really, really strong answer to those questions, I think, is incredibly important and
Hmm.
cannot be underestimated. To focus on UI and UX and user interaction and making that onboarding process really pleasant and easy. And that's why I keep harping on build iOS apps, is because you go to where the people are. Skate, here's a sports analogy, skate where the puck is going to be, as Michael
Okay.
Scott said. And
Oh.
so
I like how your sports analogy is actually just a reference to a pop culture TV show.
yeah, famous hockey skater slash office manager, Michael Scott. Everyone
Oh,
knows that.
okay, okay, sure.
I don't think that was even, I think I'm messing it up. It was, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, quote,
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky, quote, Michael Scott.
My-
So it's fine. No one will catch that. So, all right, let's do some, speaking of pop culture, let's do some
yeah.
recommendations here. What do you got? What do you got for
Do
us?
you want me to start it off? The okay, so Jesse, I got a question for you. Do you feel like the last 5 or 10 years has maybe gone in the world is going in a direction that just feels a little unsettling?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Maybe not. Maybe like, do you feel like society's losing its trust in like the very fabrics, like institutions and things like that?
Yeah, like the NNS. We covered this
Yeah.
already.
Okay. So there is a book called The Fourth Turning. That's my recommendations by a guy named William Strauss. It's a continuation of another book called Generation. And the idea is he's a historian who started seeing that there are cycles through generations of people, right? So basically, you grow up a certain way that leads to you raising your kids a slightly different way, which then leads to them. And really what happens is really there's these cycles of these overarching cycles that people go from very high trust in institutions to very low trust and to valuing the institution over individualism. And then they start valuing the individual over the institution, which is where we're at now. And what that leads to is a lack of faith in institutions, which leads to a crisis period. And so he wrote this book in the 90s. He used it to predict things like millennials would be a very social focused generation. So he actually coined the term millennials as well. But so when you think about like millennials, you're like, oh, social media. You nailed that call. So he's got a few things that he predicts that came true, but his biggest thing is just the like 2005 to 2025 are going to be 20 years of tough conflict for the world. And then in 2008 when we had the great financial crisis, that kind of resurged a lot of his writing. And so I don't know if you want a framework for understanding the current world. The Fourth Turning is a good book to read, or it's like 600 pages. You may want to just get the cliff notes, or just really what I just told you is kind of what it is. Um, but it kind of covers pretty well just what to expect in the next few years, and then what should we see as part of like this reawakening, this like greatest generation kind of thing.
This looks super interesting. I love stuff like this that says, these things that you experience that you think make you unique, that make you an individual, it turns out there are systematic things in place that are
Right.
pushing, that, what is free will? What are we really deciding? I think I'm into Twitter because I'm me, but it turns out it's just all my broken upbringing from my boomer parents is what's causing all of this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's a great recommendation, and way to show me up with a smart book right here. I like a book recommendation. This is great. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat completely here. I'm gonna make a couple recommendations, which is my I'm making a category recommendations with some specifics in there, which is going to be indie video games. So one of my favorite things to do in the before times, before we were all living through this pandemic and never seeing people again, was friends would come over and I'd fire up the video games and I'd be like, let me show you some weird arty video games. And so I had some house guests this week and I did exactly that. And it was really fun. And I was reminded how much I like all these video games. So I'm going to recommend a couple of them for you here to check out. So one of the first ones is a game called What Remains of Edith Finch. It is technically what I would call a walking simulator game, which is just about as exciting as it sounds. You play as a character named Edith Finch, and you're exploring your like family's old home. And in each room, there is a note or a book or something like that, and you read the book, and then you have an interactive flashback that shows you how that person died. And it is macabre and kind of
Hmm.
dark in that way, but super, super. There are little mini games that are super fun. And so my favorite part of it is one particular one where you play as someone that is working in a salmon canning factory. And the controls are there's salmon being dropped in front of you, and with your right stick, you control your right hand and you grab the salmon, behead the salmon, and then throw them on the conveyor belt to be processed. And while you're doing that, you are having a daydream on the left hand side, and you control the character in the daydream with the left stick
Oh my
and
gosh.
navigate through the daydream. But if you stop processing salmon, the salmon will literally pile up on top of the daydream and you won't be able to see the daydream. And so you have to do two things at once. Super fun, really creative game. And there's a whole bunch of those in there. They're very sort of literary referencing mini
Mhm.
games and just really short, 10, 15 minutes. So What Remains of Edith Finch, really fun. I think that's available on like every platform.
Okay.
A lot of these games are on Steam. Next is a game called Baba Is You. Have you ever heard of Baba Is You?
No.
It's tough to explain. I actually think Kyle, you would really like this game. I think it would really appeal to you personally. So Baba Is You. Baba is a little bunny looking kind of guy, and the game is played on like just a flat black 2D space with little objects, and you can move around like a top down view on. There's like walls, and so you're a little Baba rabbit character, and you move around, and there's like a flag, and you finish the level by touching the flag with your little rabbit. So pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Yeah.
And then each level has rules, and those rules are put in the game on screen or printed on the game. And so it says, Baba is you, wall is stop, rock is push. And because it says Baba is you, that's how you know you're Baba. And rock is push. So if you push Baba into a rock, you push the rock. So those
Okay.
rules are on the screen and you can push them around like any other thing on the screen. So you can, in fact, push rock into the sentence where Baba is, and then it says rock is you, and then you become the rock. Or you push the word stop out of the way, and then walls stop stopping you. Or you could say wall is you, and you become the wall, or wall is
Interesting.
win. And so the rules of the game are in-game elements that can be moved around, and they're logic puzzles that you solve by changing the rules of the game. And I boot it up and say, it's unfair to change the rules midway through the game, and I refuse to play the game. Like, no, that's just unfair. Super creative, really interesting. It's not a twitchy shoot aliens in the face. It's a
Mhm.
break your brain logic puzzle
Nice.
that really encourages super, super creative thinking for how you approach it. And I'm going to put in the show notes, if you're in your podcast client, look in the show notes. I'll put links to trailers for all of these so you can see all these different games. Then I
You're
want to
you're
recommend a
absolutely
game.
you're
Go ahead.
absolutely right, that would appeal to me, and I feel like when the SNS comes out, I so badly want somebody to create a game where they're using the SNS to basically allow the players of the game to vote and change the rules of the game as part of the gameplay.
Just $1 million ideas left and right. We're just dropping alpha here everywhere we go.
Yeah.
All right, I got a few more here. I got a
Alright.
game called Untitled Goose Game. This is one of those games where you play as the antagonist. You're the bad guy. You are a goose. You have a dedicated honk button, and you terrorize a small village with your goose-like abilities to pick up things and honk at things and flap your wings, and you bully a small child into crying as a goose. Because geese are assholes. Everyone knows that. So it's technically like a stealth game, but you have a whole list of chores that you have to accomplish. So in the first level, there's a gardener, and you steal the gardener's hat, and you throw his lake in the rake, and assemble a picnic for yourself by stealing all of his food. So it's technically a stealth game that you play as a mean goose. So that's Untitled Goose Game. Highly recommended.
We've got a good
And
show title. You said, you
throw
throw
your
his
rake in a
lake.
lake.
You're
Rake in a
you
lake.
said you throw his lake in a rake.
Oh, perfect.
So,
Gotta. One of these days,
I
I'll
don't wanna be
speak
pedantic,
correctly.
but
All right, and then my final indie game is a game called Celeste. Celeste was a huge hit a couple years ago. Really recommend it. It is a lot of these. Everything else I've recommended here is super non-video game centric, I would say. Celeste is more hardcore. So Celeste is a super challenging 2D platformer game, and you play as a character named Celeste who is trying to climb a mountain. And like all of my favorite indie games, the mountain is a metaphor for anxiety and depression. And the game is about overcoming anxiety and depression and becoming better at the game. And one of the things I really like about the game is you don't get you don't get power-ups in the game. You don't get a bigger gun. You don't get
Hmm.
a bigger weapon. You don't get extra lives. You get better at the game. The game gets harder, and you, the player, just become less shitty at the game. And that's how you proceed through the game, is you overcome the challenges of the game by becoming better at playing the game. And the game genuinely teaches you to be better at playing video games, actually. It's
Really?
really, really good. It's super good, incredibly fun, tons of personality, gorgeous artwork, super, super recommended. I
And
played that
that's
on
Celeste?
Celeste. Yeah, I played
Okay.
that on the Nintendo Switch. Really creative, super fun. Like you actually meet a negative version of yourself, becomes like real and chases you around levels as a bad guy. And it's literally the version of you telling yourself that you can't do this and you're not
Oh,
capable of it.
interesting.
And you fight. It's a game about depression and anxiety.
Oh, I thought you
And
I thought
then
you meant I didn't know you meant that seriously.
no, no, completely seriously. The game is
Oh,
about
cool.
depression. Absolutely.
Well,
All of these games are about depression. So, all right, last one. And this game is dedicated to Fire. What's his name?
oh, Fire Risk.
Fire Risk. Fire Risk 6, right?
Mhm.
This is dedicated to Fire Risk. So, a game called Fire Watch, where you play as someone working in a fire watching station in a national park. And
Okay,
so
cool.
the game opens fantastically with like a dialogue tree where you are introduced to the story of your romance with your wife, and you're given a series of decisions to make about your relationship.
Mhm.
And no matter what you decide, your marriage crumbles and you run away from your problems to live in this Firewatch station. Incredibly depressing opening. And you navigate, like if you played like Doom or Quake or any of those like 3D first person shooter games, you navigate the world walking around in 3D space like that.
Mm.
But you don't have a gun, you have a walkie talkie. And so, one of the core mechanics of you have a relationship with your manager that you only talk to over the walkie talkie, and you have thousands and thousands of dialogue options, and characters remember what you say, and deciding what to say in dialogue and the communication is actually kind of the core point, a core part of the game.
Hmm.
and then she
That's
gives
kind
you
of cool.
tasks to go, oh, we see a fire, and there's a little bit of a mystery and plot that you unravel, but
Hmm.
the game is literally exploring the woods, and it is while being a depressed person, and I highly recommend it. It's really, really great. So those are my indie video game recommendations. I'm going to put links to all of these in our show notes, and you can find all of our show notes. Oh, I should mention we have a website. Kyle, I made a website
Oh,
for us. Way to
that's
bury the lead. We have a website. You can now find us at neuroticpod.com. And I set up a really cool little web player so you can play all of our podcasts in there. You can find all of our links to our past episodes. You can find show notes, links to our Twitter. It's our new home on the internet is neuroticpod.com. Please come and check us out and find all the show notes there.
I feel like we should do like anyone who tweets at us the website name, we should like give them something.
Whitelist them?
Whitelist them for a Taco NFT. So
Oh
yeah.
no, whitelist them for a neurotic podcast.
Oh, for the Neurotic podcast.
We're not doing any NFTs today, but maybe in the future there might be an airdrop opportunity.
So if you made it this far into the podcast and you tweet us, you do some viral marketing for us and tweet at us with our website name, then yeah,
I'll
we'll do
whitelist you on
something.
tacos. I'll do
Okay.
that. Let's do that.
Okay.
So tweet at the neurotic pod at neurotic pod
Yeah.
Twitter account. Tweeted us that you went to the website and you love tacos. Instant whitelist status.
What's that
So
URL?
neuroticpod.com.
.com. You got a .com. That's awesome. You're the man,
I know.
Jesse.
I was so surprised it was available too. Apparently, there aren't enough other neurotic podcasts out there.
That's a good thing for us.
Dig into it. Well, this has been a great show. I've really enjoyed digging into it, and I'm excited to see our weekly As the NNS Turns updates are getting more and more exciting here.
Dear Lord, please let there not be a NNS conversation next week.
Oh, there most certainly will be. Well, you can look forward to that. And if you don't want to wait till next week and you want to talk to Kyle about the NNS now, you can reach Kyle on Twitter at Kyle Langham. I'm ICP Jesse. You can reach me at ICP Jesse on Twitter and tweet at us for the podcast at Neurotic Pod. Send us Ask Neurotic questions. Send us feedback. Send us questions. We love hearing from you. And we will be back here with an update next week. Say goodbye, Kyle.
See you guys. Goodbye.
Now, Kyle, this is a audio medium, so people at home can't see, but we have a surprise guest on mic right now with us.
He's not on mic now. I set him on the ground.
You got a puppy, Kyle.
We got a puppy. We got a little mini sheepadoodle. It's a sheep. It's an English sheepdog mixed with a poodle, and then somehow they made it mini. And so yeah, we picked him up last Saturday, and he's a new member of our family.
Wow! Because 4 kids wasn't enough. You decided this is what I call playing life on hard mode.
I'll tell you, yeah. And the youngest is now about to turn 4, so we were like, hey, this is getting kind of easy. Let's mix this up a bit. So the long story, and this is a bit sad, is we told the kids the kids wanted a puppy like 2 years ago, and we said no, things are too crazy. When our youngest James gets to be 3, we'll get a puppy. And then he turns 3, and the kids are like, yay, we can get a puppy, because they don't forget. We said no. We said when he's 3, we'll get a puppy. So that gave us a full year to wait for the puppy. Okay, so these kids have been waiting for this puppy forever. We actually got a puppy back in February, and it unfortunately like just passed away in the middle of the night. Like had like let out a loud yelp, and just keeled over. And
I just love that you're teaching your kids like contract law. Like that's not actually what this contract says. You'll Your Honor, you will see that what we actually said.
Right. When he is 3, that's the so we got a whole year now.
I'm afraid we've decided not to celebrate your birthday this year, son, to buy us an extra 12 months.
So anyways,
what is your dog's name?
Well, the kids named it, and so they went with the very reasonable name of Kingsley Shacklebolt.
Kingsley
Langham.
Shacklebolt.
It's That's great. Harry Potter.
Maybe we should use that for a named neuron.
A named neuron. It sounds very regal.
I like it. And how have you found? Did you grow up with dogs when you were a kid?
Yeah, but I didn't. I mean, like I forgot when you get a puppy, like it's like having a baby. You're getting up multiple times in the middle of the night, and I didn't realize that because when I was a kid, my parents did that. And now that I'm the parent, I'm like, wait, what are we doing here?
We had a string of dogs when I was a kid, and the big takeaway was that our family was not very good at owning dogs. That is
Oh
too much
no.
responsibility. Well, and
Oh.
then now my brother Ari is actually my youngest brother Ari. He is the dog master of the family and is actually
Hmm.
a fantastic dog owner and gets dogs as puppies, and so that he specifically can train them from young. And so he has he's had two dogs for a while. One of his dogs passed away from
Hmm.
old age. But his other dog, Scout, is about 10 now, so getting up there. And
Okay.
Scout is half wolf, half husky, and is
Nice.
incredibly smart. She was the run to the litter. She's very small and really,
Okay.
really lean and emotionally manipulative. And but he's about to get a puppy for his puppy, which
Okay.
is
A puppy
you
for
got to
his
get,
puppy.
yeah, a puppy for your puppy so that the older puppy can train the newer puppy how to do it. But yeah, I had a friend of mine that got a pandemic puppy, like you do.
Hmm.
And I went and saw him during the first week, and that's when I realized, oh wow, you've fully gone off the deep end of puppy. It is like having a baby, because he was like, he's like, I really need to take a shower. And I was like, do you want me to sit with the dog while you take a shower? And he was like, yes, that would be very nice. And so I played with the dog while he took a shower, and he came out of the shower and he said, I couldn't tell, was the dog whining, or was that just the pipes with the water flowing? And I was like, that was the pipes. You've
You
gone
just hear it.
fully around the bend of concerned parrot.
Yeah.
So have you been learning the night walks and learning patience with training the puppy?
Yeah, yeah, it's going pretty well, and I think having 4 kids has trained us pretty well to take care of a puppy. So I think we're good to go.
Who's training who, is, and then do you
That's
run governance of the puppy is run using a DAO? Is it a
no,
family vote? Are you
no, no,
fully
no, no.
centralized authority?
My 9-year-old has a schedule. She created it for us. She put everyone in their spot, and nobody. The schedule's so perfect, nobody has questioned it, and we just live by it. So my 9-year-old, maybe my 9-year-old is the one who should be doing the governance conversations.
That's the joke I was going to make. I was waiting for you
Ah,
to finish. All right, we're
yeah.
putting your 9-year-old in charge of the NNS. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.